Hello, this is Darnell of the Soul Food Cookbook YouTube channel and soulfoodcookbook.com blog. Today I'm going to do a demonstration of a very popular recipe on my blog, and it's Everlena's banana pudding. So let me show you. These are the ingredients involved. There's a lot of them, and the order of the ingredients is important. So first we have 2/3 cup of, the recipe calls for sugar. I'm trying to cut the sugar some, so I'm using Splenda. That'll be the only real replacement type of ingredient I'll be using in this recipe. A pinch of salt if you need a measurement there. I'm just using 1/8 of a teaspoon. Also, we have 3½ tablespoons of flour. I'm using an organic white flour. I have 1 14-ounce can of sweetened condensed milk. I have 2 1/4 cups of milk, although I usually prefer almond milk to keep this recipe as successful as possible. I'm going to use whole vitamin D milk, cow's milk there. Next we have 4 large eggs separated, so I've got my whites and my yolks separated. 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. 1 box of vanilla wafers, although the recipe calls for a 12-ounce box. The only ones made these days are 11 ounces. Maybe Nabisco has cut back over the years, but 11-ounce box of vanilla wafers. I have 5 large bananas. I have 1 cup plus an additional tablespoon of, well, it calls for sugar. I'm using Splenda again here. And I have 1/2 of a teaspoon of banana extract. The first step of this recipe, I've added the first 3 ingredients, which are the 2/3 cup of sugar, the pinch of salt, and the 3½ tablespoons of flour into a homemade double boiler. That's just a large pot with water that has a smaller pot inside of it. I put those ingredients inside of my homemade double boiler. And now I'm going to take the milks and the egg yolks. The milks and the egg yolks, that's the whole milk, the sweetened condensed milk, and the egg yolks. I'm going to combine them here in this bowl, and then I'll put them into the double boiler. I'll bring you back in 1 second for that. Alright, so in my bowl here I've put my whole milk. I've also added, just poured in my sweetened condensed milk as is into that bowl. I'm just going to do a little whisking on these egg yolks so that they're blended together before I put them into the bowl as well. And in they go into the bowl. I'm just going to mix them together here. So they get well blended up. You could use, if you want to use an electric blender, you'd want to probably do it pretty low, but I'd say hand spin it as best you can so that you don't overspin things here and they get all bubbly and whatnot. Alright, I've got those blended together. Now I'm going to add them into my double boiler. So I'm just going to pour them in. Alright, now that they're in, I'm going to just get that stirring a little bit. There's a little water coming out the sides of my double boiler. That's okay. want to get these mixed together. I'm going to turn the heat to medium, and I'm going to heat this until it's like pudding, until it's like a pudding consistency. Alright, I wanted to bring it back real quick because I'm still cooking things in a double boiler so that they get to that pudding consistency, but the double boiler I made initially with the two pots were a little too small. They weren't working out too well as the water started to boil, so I've transitioned to larger pots. Once these get to a pudding consistency, I'm going to add in the vanilla, take them off the heat and add in the vanilla, and I'll bring you back. Okay, so my mixture in the double boiler is at about pudding consistency. So I'm going to turn the heat off of it. I'm going to separate it over here. I'm going to stir in my vanilla extract. Just get that all stirred in there really good. And that looks like a done deal. Alright, for the next step, we want to reserve aside enough vanilla wafers to put around the edge of our baking pan. So I've already counted those out. That's about 20 wafers. You get about 80 to a box, so save about 20 to put around the edges, and then you're going to need enough for 2 layers of wafers, so that'll be another 20 on the bottom layer and then another 20 on the middle layer. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to chop up some bananas, and then I'll bring you back for the next step when we start the layer of vanilla wafers and layering that with bananas as well as our pudding mixture. Okay, I've got my bananas chopped up, as you can see there. I'm going to get the oven preheated now to about 325 degrees, so just to get that started. So I've got the oven on 325 and it'll start heating up. I don't know if you'll hear it beep or not when it gets to 325, but while that's going, I'm going to put down my first layer of the vanilla wafers. I'm going to spray some some baking spray on my pan here before I put the first layer down. So basically you put a layer of wafers, then bananas, then pudding, and then repeat that. So I'm putting down my wafers. Just covering the bottom here. Now I'm going to put on a layer of bananas, about half of my sliced bananas. Just spread them out all over the layer here. Just making a covered layer. I will say this is a recipe you would want to reserve a fair amount of time in your day for. This is not a recipe that goes quickly. Alright, so we've got some bananas. Now I'm going to pour the pudding mixture over that, half of it. This is a 3-quart baking dish, by the way. Put some more wafers, another layer of those. This is my next set of 30 wafers I'm putting in. Alright, now I'm going to cover this with bananas and then more pudding. And I also should mention I put those egg whites in the refrigerator. Those will be coming out in a moment when we get to our next steps. But after you separate those egg whites, you probably want to just store those to the fridge till it's time to call on them. So a little bit more banana. Alright. And I'm going to pour the rest of my pudding mixture over. Make sure I get some of those edges there. Alright, almost done with this step. Alright, just trying to get a little more off my spoon here, off my mixer here. Alright, so we've got that taken care of. I'll bring you back in one moment for our next step. Those reserved wafers, just kind of put them around the edges to represent the edge of our banana pudding. My oven has finished preheating, by the way. It did do a nice beat, but that happened off camera, which is probably good because that blaring sound might not do too well for you. Alright, so I've got my wafers around the edge there. Now I've got my egg whites. I'm going to beat those egg whites on high so I start getting some soft peaks. Got those blended together good. It's nice and foamy. My blender wouldn't come out the plug there. So I'm going to start putting in my sugar slowly. I want that to start, my Splenda, there it is. It starts to dissolve somewhat. I'm going to get something to help mix that a little bit. It is getting some stiffer peaks. Just mixing it up a little bit, just to get it in there and make sure it dissolves in. Alright, all of the last of our sweetener there is in. Now I'm going to fold in the banana extract. Smell that banana flavoring pretty good. I will say not every market sells banana extract. You might have to look around a bit until you find one in your area that has some. Now we just pour this over the top slowly. See, it's nice and foamy. And get those edges. Get some more out of there. Try and get over some more of it. I'm just going to, for what didn't spread over perfectly, I'm just going to even it out. So it's an even spread all over. Alright, now with that, I'm going to put this into the oven for between 25-30 minutes. I'll just keep an eye on it, and I'll bring you back so we can see our finished product. The meringue should be kind of a golden color that we have on the top here. I'll stick that in our oven. I'll bring you back to see the finished product in about 25-30 minutes. Alright, 29 minutes have passed and it's starting to look done, so I'm going to pull it on out, let you have a look at our finished product here. Turn the oven off. Alright, so here's our finished product. I'm not going to claim that I'm as good with Everlena's recipe as Everlena is herself, but that looks pretty good to me. I'm going to let that cool, and then I'm going to do a taste test with you. This is, by the way, if you want to do banana pudding with the old-fashioned do-it-yourself custard, this is one of 2 banana pudding recipes on my blog. The other one is much more of a straightforward, I guess, modern-day banana pudding type of recipe. But this one is a little more of the old-fashioned style. So I'll do a taste testing in a moment once this cools a little. To cool down, I'm going to try and do a taste test here. A little crunch sound as I go through that meringue topping. Alright, let me move the camera up here. Alright, let's see how this tastes. That's good. Not only is it good, it has that old-fashioned flavor, unlike any banana pudding that you may have even had before. So try this recipe. Hope you like it. Give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends. There'll be a printable version, a link to a printable version underneath this video. And good eating.